And with that, I'm going to open it up to members of the public.
Hey, sorry,
Morning,
I have to leave. So, my name is Bud Colligan, and I'm a citizen of Santa Cruz County and the co-chair of the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. And I want to thank you and thank the RTC staff and the board for carefully studying the rail trail issue. I sent yesterday a document from Miles Ryder, who's the chairman of Driscoll's and fourth generation Santa Cruz County resident, and myself relating to this issue. And we are very concerned that a $14.2 million purchase for the right-of-way that had broad public support could become a $100 to $200 million investment in rail without examining the broader context, cost, and return of transportation alternatives and use of the corridor. Many of the items that George mentioned, all that are not rail specific, and there's probably 8 or 9 of them, are applicable to other transit alternatives as well. Things like climate change and CO2 emissions. In particular, we are very concerned about the viability of a narrow trail of 8 feet as a commuter option when we know it is not sufficient in heavily trafficked areas. A good example, I know all of you have been on Westcliff Drive and used the walkway or bike path there, and is basically impossible to use as a bike path with so many pedestrians on it as well. Also, ridership numbers of 1 to 5,000 are not very impressive, given the fact that 7,000 people use their bikes on Ride Your Bike to Work Day. And that's been true for several years now, and the amount that have been riding to work on that day has increased every year except this last year due to the rain, when it was 6,800. Finally, new technologies are arriving, and many of you mentioned this, electric bikes and other types of electric vehicles, which may provide alternatives to an old technology like rail that has been outlined in this feasibility study. I have outlined in my email in detail with Miles what our concerns are and organized them into the 3 goals that are set by the Monterey Bay Scenic Trail Master Plan. And we intend to study these issues in more depth over the next month. So we will be doing our part to bring additional information to the RTC and to the board. My respectful request to you as the policy directors of the RTC is to direct staff to explore these issues as well that we've mentioned in our 2-page document, and in particular to understand the economic, environmental, recreational, traffic reduction, and commute optimization benefits of a trail-only plan with rail banking. One last point. Regardless of where this debate concludes, and I'm trying to come up with data and facts just like all of you are right now, because it's been a very short period of time that we've had to comment on this feasibility study. We should be following the county's Dig Once ordinance and putting high-speed fiber along the 32-mile path, whatever our plan is, whether it's trail only or rail with trail or rail only, to ensure a county-owned resource to better provide connectivity for the entire county and incent competition among all the various internet service providers. That is our information highway for the future, maybe even more important than the decision about rail. So we have one chance to get this right, so let's understand all the issues before we move forward. I'm very happy to hear all of your questions today, which I think have been very well put, to really dig into the next level of detail and really understand this word of feasibility, Randy, you put so perfectly, I think, versus viability, and whether we're marching into the future or moving into the past. And thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Almost good afternoon. Heather Adamson, AMBAG. I just wanted to commend the Commission for undertaking this feasibility study. We always encourage studies that look at alternative transportation modes that will help us improve our sustainability and reduce greenhouse gases and meeting our sustainable community strategy goals. AMBAG is a partner in the study. We have contributed federal planning dollars to assist with the development of the study, and as a resident in this corridor, I did take I'm one of the 2,000 who took one of your surveys, and I will be attending your open house tonight. I do want to clarify a statement made by the consultant in the presentation as well as a statement that's in the report. We are continuing to look at the study and will provide comments to Commission staff, but I do want to say that the Regional Transportation Commission, or the Regional Transportation Demand Model that AMBAG currently maintains and operates, is a 3-county transportation demand model. It is the regional demand model approved by the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration for transportation planning in the region, and it does include transit. It may not be as specifically detailed as the more extensive FTA model stops that you may want to use in further ridership analysis that gets down to the station level. But all of the transportation routes, the existing and planned routes that are in your regional transportation plan, including a future passenger rail service, are modeled and included in our current transportation model. So that's just one statement I do want to clarify. Obviously, as the Transportation Commission goes forward with any additional feasibility study or alternative analysis, you will want to look at a more detailed analysis for the ridership that gets down to that station level detail. But the regional transportation model, the RTDM model that was used in this, is a very appropriate use in the initial stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. I'm Cliff Walters. I work for Roaring Camp and the Santa Cruz and Big Trees Railway, and I'm authorized here to speak for them. And this is a great high-level report. It has a lot of information, and we find it fascinating and exciting. We just wanted once again remind you that we do go to the boardwalk, and we do have some 500 arrivals and departures from there per year, and we have close to 1 million people that go to our combined operations, and we'd like to continue to go to the boardwalk, and I hope that that is included in your thinking. Also, this is a high-level study, and if you notice in there, it does say that the cost estimates range from 70 to 130% of whatever figure they put in there. So you know that there's a lot going on, and that maybe some of the expenses may not be quite as they are stated. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, almost good afternoon. I want to thank the consultants for the good report. I learned a lot this morning, and I thank the commissioners for all your questions. They're very helpful. My name is Paul Ellerick. I'm representing an organization called the Campaign for Sensible Transportation. We've been in existence since 2004, and we've recently been meeting. Our steering committee has been meeting to discuss the possibility of sales tax. Now, we haven't got into depth yet, but what we've seen so far is we're going to be discussing with the rest of our organization the things that we like, that we see proposed. So specifically, the rail. We're all for rail and everything that goes with it. You know, the bikes, the hiking, all the good things that go with the plan are attached to the rail. And you're going to find a lot of support from our group with that. You're going to find support from our group for fixing the roads. And we all use the roads. And you're going to find support from our group for improvements on our restoring bus service that's been cut recently. Now, we haven't got into the discussion about the things that we don't like, and you'll be hearing from us about that. But I want you to know how positive we are on the rail. The rail is a sales tax measure, and you'll find our support. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Brian Peoples, Aptos Rail Trail. A lot of great questions. I commend all commissioners on the questions. I'm not sure that the report is complete after listening to this, if we can truly do a feasibility, because it sounds like all the parking numbers aren't calculated, so it sounded like they needed to do more in-depth on that. Ridership numbers, Sounds like they don't have that quantified. Funding, I guess one of the direct questions I would ask is, the Business Community Council did the survey, and less than 9% based off the survey supported rail. So I'm wondering if in the funding analysis, if that was included in that analysis. Train speed moving up. I'm wondering in the structural analysis if we looked at the proximity of the rail increasing speed to the existing homes. I know that many of the people in our group are concerned about a train, a multi-ton train going by their house at 10 miles an hour, going even faster. That would be interesting. And the last thing, I thought Dennis was going down the right track, so to say, in the sense of technology. Give you a lot of credit there. And two things I want to point out is I think I've been trying to, and Zach gives me a little hard time on this because I'm an engineer, so I'm always technical. So I'm trying to understand the more political ideology. And I sense that we have this ideology that trains are good and cars are bad. Buses are bad. Vehicles are bad. We have that ideology, that rails are good things, trains are good things, and I don't necessarily agree with that. So I want to encourage us to realize that the payphone, there used to be a lot of payphones. Now we have our cell phones. So the train is the payphone, cell phone is the vehicle. But I want to bring out a little bit of engineering here to give you a little bit of my perspective from an engineer's perspective. When you're designing your transportation system, you have three corridors: Highway 1, SoCal, and the corridor. Think of them as water pipes in your house. So in the highway, you want to reduce the bubbles, space between the cars, right? So you have more water volume going through. On SoCal, you want to reduce the control mechanisms that change the flow, streetlights. Now, if we use a train scenario, how does a train work as a water pipe? Well, you take a container, you have your pipe, fill it with water. That's one, and the pipe sits empty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, my name is Rick Longinati. I wanted to make a suggestion that the Commission asked for the final feasibility analysis to include the electrification of the rail line. We've heard that Caltrain is moving to electrification, and there are good reasons for that. When you think about diesel moving past your neighborhoods, there's fumes and there's noise, and electric is quiet, and of course it doesn't emit. But it also reduces pollution, greenhouse gas pollution, as we shift to electric generation that's more renewable energy. As our state moves in that direction, we'll have our transportation moving in that direction at the same time. There's also the issue of the connectivity. If as I learned from Mr. Dondero this morning, that Caltrain is going to be extended down to Salinas via Pajaro, then we're going to have electric trains within our very reach, and it would be great to have that kind of connectivity. My mom used to ride on the Suntan Special from San Francisco down to Santa Cruz and Capitola, and we could have more connectivity rather than an enforced stop at the Pajaro station if we go electric. The other reason is that oil. You all had a guest last year, about a year ago, Anthony Pearl from British Columbia, who spoke about what we face in the future in terms of oil prices and oil scarcity. And so if we're going with a diesel situation, we're going to be dependent on a fuel source that's going to just inevitably rise in price. So I think for all those reasons, I appreciate that our consultants have looked at the cheapest solution, which would be a diesel, but it might be a false economy if in a very short time we would want to change to electrical anyway. So why not do it right now?
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Eli Puglizovich, and I live in the Seacliff area. My concerns are something that has not been brought up to my knowledge, and that is the noise level. If I'm correct, trains are required to honk their horn, their whistle, whatever you want to call it, at rail crossings. In our area, we have 2 rail crossings within less than a mile area. And besides the noise level for the people along the tracks, that noise goes all the way to the waterfront and all the way up into the mountains. You can hear a train honk for a ton of miles. We have heard nothing about the noise level or any of that concern. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve Hill. I am the Vice President of Engineering and Chief Engineer for Iowa Pacific. Pleasure to be here today. I just wanted to offer a couple comments relative to, excuse me, Scenario S. Briefly, my background, before I came to Iowa Pacific, I was with Caltrain. I was their Chief Engineer of Track and Structures. And I've been working for Class 1 railroads, passenger and freight, since 1972. Iowa Pacific is the operator for your corridor here. And a large part of our management philosophy is making the most cost-effective choices to provide the service required. We're proud to provide customer-focused service at an economically sustainable cost. So when the RTC's request, at the RTC's request, we reviewed the preliminary consultant's report on the commuter service options, and our reaction was that we could provide a more carefully focused service at a more reasonable incremental cost for the county. We expressed this thought to George and Luis, and they in turn asked us to submit a proposal, which is what you have before you, which you're seeing is Scenario S. As we were doing this exercise on a pro bono basis, we asked the commission staff to pick one scenario to focus on. We were given the one that you're looking at. Our approach is to minimize the initial investment and lead times through the use of existing locomotives and cars, and that are thoroughly rehabbed to provide reliable service and a pleasant customer experience, and not overbuilding infrastructure or facilities beyond the level that is necessary to meet the Commission's goals, while maintaining and developing freight service over the entire length of the railway. We can provide this passenger service sooner and more cost effectively and feasibly. As for freight service, our marketing staff is actively looking to acquire additional freight traffic for the railway. However, companies are slow to change their logistics practices, so this is rarely a short-term process. I can assure you that we are intrigued by the possibilities that commuter service provide for this community as well as the railway, and we'll be happy to continue to work with George, Luis, and the entire Commission staff to make that a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address us? The mayor. All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, colleagues. How are you? Are you good? I'm here to speak on behalf of the city of Watsonville and the city council, and I looked at the plans, and first of all, I have to commend you because I think it's great that we're looking for alternatives. We all know Highway 1 is filled, and even though there's been a reduction in ridership, we still need an alternative mode. We're looking at rail tracks because that's what we have, and we're thinking that that may be the best thing. I don't know if it is. You know, things are going to happen in the future, but something needs to be done. Looking at this plan, I would say we need to go with Plan G. You can't forget Watsonville. we're one of these large cities, and we happen to be on the opposite end. And many times we hear, oh, that's South County. They don't care about South County, South County, South County. But I think you do. And I think you will show us that you do. Yes, I know it's more money. It's a half-cent sales tax. You want Watsonville's support, I'm sure. But you got to include us. You can't leave us out. And I don't think that's your intention. But everybody's talking about dollars. We've talked about roads. Our roads are terrible, and you know it. And we see things happening now and then to try and improve. We need more money for roads. But we also need something to happen with an alternative type of transportation. We've had a study. This is what they're talking about. Maybe it needs to be enhanced, electric, whether, I don't know. I don't know all those details. And the engineers are going to figure that out. But please include Watsonville. If you look at that plan, we need G. So I appreciate your support, and I appreciate you taking time to listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Lowell Hurst, speaking as a private citizen here today, resident of Supervisor Friend's District 2. Great presentation, very interesting data. I'm sure that way back when Lewis and Clark were blazing the Oregon Trail, some of these same questions probably were asked about feasibility, where are you going, how are you going to get there. When the Transcontinental Railroad was built, I'm sure they had arguments about where it was going to start, where it was going to stop, how it was going to meet in the middle, but they got there. When the Wright brothers took off from Kitty Hawk, I'm sure that there were people that said, hey, that's not feasible, that's not practical, it'll never carry any passengers. But things evolve. When Henry Ford first came out with a car, I'm sure that the people who made buggy whips said, hey, this is not going to work at all. Where it starts and where it stops are very important. There's a lot of unknowns. Lots of unknowns. But one thing that is known for sure, and it is solid, is the security of the right-of-way. And so the right-of-way exists. It's useful. Find ways to maximize it. Be brave and think big. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Barry Scott, and I'm a homeowner in Rio Del Mar, and this is my first time speaking to the board. Thank you. And I want to say my uncle was the first dentist in Aptos, Uncle Sil. Just a couple of things to say. I want to thank you all for the hard work you're doing, and it's an exciting time. I have a background in architecture and education, and I now work in the energy education industry, working with schools, including Mar Vista and Aptos High. But I follow these things a lot. The transportation and sustainability and energy issues, and I thank you for what you're doing. Just the three thoughts I had was it looks like you're doing this, keeping in mind the fact that corridor, which is what an asset, what an incredible asset, and I hope y'all, and I think you will, do the right thing with it, but thinking about that as a piece of a bigger system, making it go to Watsonville, making sure that it can hook up with other modes so that I can get to the airport, say, and do things. I mean, the idea of a bike path is a lovely idea, but if it's dedicated just to bikes and pedestrians, I don't think it's going to serve as many people as a rail system will. Also, thinking about the costs of not doing it. There's costs involved in doing it, but what are the costs of not doing anything or doing the wrong thing? And finally, the right-of-way, keeping this thing available. Don't do anything that then prevents bigger things from being done. And there's been talk about rail banking. Well, there are cases of rail banks that are trying to be overturned, across the country. The rail banking thing is not a secure way to keep open the possibilities of the future. So good luck with building it, and I can't wait to see what happens, and thank you for all your hard work.
Uncle Sid would have been proud. Thank you. All right. Well, we're closing in on almost all hearing from all the Watsonville City Council members. So
You've
it's
got
great.
that right. I dropped everything to make sure that I was over here to give my 2 cents in with this as well. We have adopted a climate action plan. Part of that plan shows that there's many thousands of commuter miles that we're putting, which an impact with our community that's here. And we do need to provide some other alternative relief efforts with regarding transportation from and to Watsonville, and to be part of this community in terms of bringing people in and being able to get some of that relief off of the highways. We know that we're not going to see too much happen in our neighborhoods here to relieve some of the traffic congestions that vehicles are creating, but perhaps this project in bringing it to Watsonville and allowing this as an additional resource will relieve or remedy a lot of the impact. When it takes me an hour and 10 minutes to get from one city hall to the next city hall, that's my personal observation of what we have for the impact that we have in trying to get just from from one neighborhood to the other neighborhood, and that's not even on a daily commuter basis, which I dread to even think about doing. So what we really need to do is focus on what will allow us an opportunity for an alternative method of getting around our county, and to be able to support this a project that brings us from one neighborhood to the next in another means than to be on that Highway 1 situation. So I encourage all of you to work on allowing whatever resources available for it to be inclusive of our community, for our neighborhood, and the collaborative efforts of trying to relieve some of our the traffic congestion we see on the Highway 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address us?
Good afternoon. My name is Ronald Kaplan. I live in Seascape, and we haven't heard it for a little while, but we used to hear trains running through our neighborhood, and it was always very startling. Having spent a couple of years commuting from Seascape to Scotts Valley, it is a tremendous user of time and energy just to commute to get there. Somebody referred to SoCal Avenue as Highway 2, and that really isn't much of a viable option anymore. So I think that we do need a third rail in a sense. And as a lot of us in the community are aging, and some younger people may not be able to afford to invest in transportation, support an automobile, it just seems like a wonderful thing to be able to get on a train and ride into Santa Cruz and come back. I also love the idea of connecting to other trains and facilities to get to other places in the state. It just makes a lot of sense, and I think we have to do something about it. And the thing that really struck me was, and you can't believe everything you read in the newspaper, however, it seemed to me that the cost was about 15% of building a new lane on Highway 1, and it seems like a no-brainer. There's a lot of things to ameliorate, but I think it's the way to go, and I'd like to see it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else, it comes back to the commission. Given the hour, if there's something that people feel like they need to say about it, this would be the time. But Commissioner Norton?
Yes, as far as the comment deadline of being, now it's at July 8th, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Yes, I think that's a little quick for a community to totally respond to this. Would it be a consideration to actually extend that to the end of July?
Problem in doing that? No. And I also wanted to correct the timing for tonight's open house. That's at 6:30, not 6 o'clock. So as long as I'm standing here, we're going to get that in also.
Okay. Okay. So that, can I frame that in the form of a motion with the
Do we need to take action on that to do that?
You may take action if you'd like to extend that, but you don't have to.
Okay. And it's I'm sensing it's the will that we actually care about what the public has to say, and so we would like that to be extended July 31st, and we won't take a motion on it.
Okay, that'll be done.
Okay. I think that it was very clear from these comments today that the commission is interested in including Watsonville and whatever future scenario planning that we do. I think nearly every speaker spoke about it, and we are a countywide system, and however we pay this, it's got to serve the entire county. So at least that are on the rail line.